Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
What a game. Salut tout le monde. Yeah, sorry about that little misfire there. I was planning to have everything run so smoothly tonight, but from here on in, it's going to be beautiful. Salut tout le monde. Je suis Marc Dumont. I'll be your host tonight. Another just fantastic Habs win. And I'm starting to look back at what I said to start the season. I'm realizing maybe I had it wrong here. It's incredible how well they've played, and these are deserved wins. That's the other great part. Tonight, I don't think the Capitals deserve to make it to overtime. So we have everybody, all our fans in the chat. Bernardo, who is trolling me about Josh Anderson. Hey, Josh Anderson scored another just clutch goal we've seen from the penalty killers this year. The Habs are now tied for third in the NHL on the penalty kill. So with 5 shorthanded goals. Absolutely fantastic. Vaguely Sober's here. So is Keck Shows. Andrew, as per usual, doing a great job moderating. We got Claire. Hi, Claire. And I'll get to everyone else, all our fantastic fans, our support group. And before we get going, I'm going to give you the usual spiel, but just the fact that you're here is fantastic for us. We really do appreciate it. If you want to go one step further, you can check out everything in the details there under the live YouTube post. It has all the information how you can support us. But just being here, it's huge for us. We genuinely do appreciate it. Yes, and we will. There's a request here to talk about the Brad Marchand Pasternak thing, which I have some thoughts on that, and I kind of loved it. I loved everything about that. I loved how quickly Boston put that on their social media account. That was just great, and that was a message too. But I have a lot of thoughts on a lot of things, and we'll get to them. Before we get going, we got Johnny Golden in the chat. Welcome, Johnny. Welcome to our post-game show here on Game Over Montreal. We have a fair amount of exciting things to talk about. Before we get going, I'm just going to mention to everyone that I strongly encourage you to watch Hyperdrive Hockey with our friends Max and Daphne, and also Kevin. I always leave Kevin out of the ad read. But anyways, every Tuesday and Friday, you get all your hockey need for a great show, a great recap of what's been going on in the NHL, and we strongly encourage you to check out Daphne and Max and Kevin. Just fantastic work from a local group. That's the other great part here, from a local group. Oh, I realized I just lost my face there again on the feed, and I'm back. So, first period, honnêtement, not the most exciting period in a while. It was, for one reason, I thought it was actually quite encouraging. They held Washington to 1 high danger chance. That's something that earlier in the season, if they would have held them to 1 high danger chance per Ovechkin shift, I would have said that's fantastic, right? There's something really interesting that's happened since Alexandre Carrier has joined this team. And I don't want to take credit away from anyone else, but he seems to be, and that's what this is. That's what roster construction is in the NHL. It's a puzzle. You're looking for your pieces. And Alexandre Carrier, he hasn't been a puzzle piece. He's been the glue. If any of you are old school and used to go to Grandpa and Grandma's cottage, you'd do puzzles. And if you're even more old school, there's like a lacquer made specifically for puzzles. That's what Alexandre Carrier has been for the defense. He's just kept everything together, made life easier on the goalies, on the coach, and obviously on Kaiden Guhle, who he must be losing his mind right now that he doesn't have to cover for someone. He can play on his normal side. Like, what is that? Normal usage? Kaiden Guhle getting normal usage? Anska, it's just been, to me, that was the best trade that Kent Hughes has done, bar none. And we're talking about a lot of good trades here. You got 2 firsts for Monahan, et cetera. But bringing that piece in and pivoting quickly on the whole Barron thing, that is the sign of a general manager who's not afraid to move on after a bad decision. That's also proactive, and I love it. Also, I want to quickly mention Barron's playing well, like relatively speaking, for Nashville over there too. So we hope that everything goes fantastic for Justin Barron over in Nova Scotia. All right, yeah. As Andrew mentions, the vibes are absolutely immaculate right now. They should be, right? This is. Was anyone worried when they went down, when they gave up that first goal? Okay, so I write a recap for every game, and it has to be done right away. So as soon as the game's over, because I have to come hop on and speak with you fine people, and usually I know exactly, like, the script's been written 1,000 times, right? Habs start slow, they're down 2-0, they get maybe one goal, just the dumbest penalties in the world, and the other team blows them out of the water, they give up. But since Carrier arrived, there's been kind of a reversal of fortunes with how much confidence the fans have, and I'll admit it's been changing how I'm writing. I can't pre-write 90% of my recaps anymore, and that's fantastic. I actually have to pay attention now to what happens. Anyways, and there's just that sense that the Habs will come back no matter what against really, really strong teams. Keep in mind here, Washington has been fantastic this year. The amount of offense they can generate, the amount of shots. The Habs had one of their best games from a defensive standpoint. So, yeah, the vibes are really good. And as per usual, I wanted to talk about mid-season awards. We're gonna get that to another episode. I think tomorrow. I'll be with you tomorrow. I'm gonna try to pick up a little bit more slack down the stretch here, since Kay has done about 98% of all our lives, and she's done a great job. But that's not exactly what we had agreed upon coming into this. So we're gonna have to give her a Montembeault-esque break. I'm not at Jakub Dobeš's level yet, but you'll be seeing me a little more often. So in the third segment, which is usually our heavy fan interaction segment, it's 100% all up to you guys, but I'd like to hear what you're thinking about just the overall not vibe. I think I'm going to start using that word. I've been using that word too often, but your feeling here about the legitimate chances to make the playoffs. Because this isn't just like it's not a food pie. It's not a straw fire. Can you say that? Does the idiom translate? Like, the Habs are playing, they deserve to beat these top teams in the NHL. That's what's so encouraging about it. Anyways, that's how I see it. Yeah, MFM is here. MFM knows that K. I'm just I'm more the Kaiden Primo in this situation. But who mentioned Primo? He Johnny Golden 5-0. Kaiden Primo shutout. So that's, yeah, man. Kaiden Primo is doing pretty good in Laval, and I think I'm going to have to eat a lot of crow on this one. I had said leave Jakub Dobeš in Laval or bring up Connor Hughes. I think he's 28, a little older. It's fine if he doesn't get that many starts, but switching Dobeš for Primo has been just a fantastic decision. And I was absolutely wrong, because I wanted the Habs to leave Laval alone. Let them do a run for the Calder Cup, because they were one of the best teams in the AHL. But now, my, how the turntables. And we also have to. I wanted to be really arrogant about Juraj Slafkovsky tonight, but I don't think this is the night to do it. Is it? Okay. Let's. This will be segment number 1. Juraj Slafkovsky. You saw him tonight, assisted on another key play. I believe that's 2 games in a row now where he essentially generates the primary assist, like, solo for the game opening goal. We didn't see in the play tonight, yes, he fed Nick Suzuki. That could have been a goal. He fed Cole Caulfield perfectly. That could have been a goal. Before that, he did a Thomas Tatar in the neutral zone, where he essentially, quickly turned defense into offense by forcing a turnover in the neutral zone. And that's what led to the shift, the sustained offensive zone shift in the first place. So would it blow your mind right now if I tell you that Juraj Slafkovsky is outproducing, like, per 60, outproducing his pace last year by a considerable margin, almost 2-1? Because that's what's happening right now. We're seeing it. Well, okay, it's not almost 2-1. That's very much exaggerated, but he's over 2 points per 60, I believe, at 5-on-5. And last year was at like 1.2. And the big one here, I was gonna say the Pinocchio of it all. That's not a saying, but the most important part of that increased production is his primary assists. That's where his secondary assists are identical. His primary assists are through the roof this year. So, look, what I really don't like with Slafkovsky is all the criticism. I was gonna say c'est de la bullshit. It's things you can't actually prove. It's kind of opinion based. He's fucking lazy. First of all, you don't make the NHL if you're lazy. Now, there's a difference between being lazy and maybe giving up a little early. And yes, Slafkovsky has been guilty maybe of giving up a little early in some shifts, but so has everyone in this lineup. It's just because he's that first overall that everyone's like glued to him. Don't tell me that you're staring down Nick Suzuki's every shift, right? Like, even if you wouldn't find much there, obviously we're paying special attention to this guy. If statistically speaking, there's a few things that have gone better and have gone worse. He's hitting a lot more. He's taking a lot fewer hits. He's creating a lot fewer turnovers. So what we saw tonight was very encouraging, because that's been one of the biggest issues in his game this year, is that he's coughing up the puck a lot and he's not making up for it. So in the last stretch, he's kind of rectified that, and that's been the biggest problem. Other than the fact that he's allergic to shooting, he's not used in a situation conducive to shooting. But he needs to shoot more. He needs to take care of the puck better. But I honestly feel the criticism in Slafkovsky's case has been just ridiculously overblown. You know what I mean? There's something there, but it reminds me a lot of that Jack Eye, the bandwagon where everyone just started beating up on one guy, and now people have moved on to Slafkovsky, and I hate to say it, because people really don't love hearing this. He's the youngest guy in the lineup. Yes, it's the third year in a row where he's the youngest guy in the lineup. There's been improvements in a lot of departments, including his production, and that's what you want to see from a first overall player. I get it. It wasn't the best year to have the first overall, but I really do believe that we would do him some favors to maybe lay off with the heavy criticism. Is that fair? That's my leave Uri alone speech for tonight. And there's a few other guys I know. I love to defend the underdog, but in this case, the numbers prove it. It's really not as big of an issue as many are making it out to be. And I'm going to go ahead and check out how wrong I am on the chat right now. I get the sense some of you agree with me here. Let's check it out. The Bernard. I can't repeat what Bernardo just said. Like, come on, man. Like, where's my mods on this one? Andrew. Marc, can you co-sign my Hamilton bad campaign on the channel? Oh, okay, that's King of the North again, wanting me to go. I've had a lot of, I was gonna say forgetful, but that's not what I meant to say. A lot of weekends that I forgot in Hamilton, which means they were a lot of fun. Frédéric Ouellet mentions Slafkovsky was great retrieving pucks tonight. And yeah, that's something that I think the criticism when it comes to him was fair, was maybe getting out-muscled in some of those situations where, again, like his Clifford the dog size advantage over everyone should come into play, right, all the time. And that wingspan of a condor, you want to see him retrieve those pucks a little bit better, a little faster. And yeah, absolutely, tonight was a nice little step in the right direction there. King of the North, Marc Dumont, hello, you beautiful person. Great to see you've been drinking again. Vincent is here. What Chelios has more than Hudson? Yeah, okay, so Chris Chelios, I think you're talking about points like first 40 games in the league or whatever. He had 35. Hudson had 30. Cale Makar had 34. Robert Orr had 27 or something, so less. Quinn Hughes had about 29. So Chelios is higher, and Chelios was damn good. Like, the Habs didn't trade him because he was bad on the ice. So let's put it that way. But just the fact that Hudson's keeping pace with some of the best offensive talents of all time is, I don't know, man. Like, we talk about Laine a lot, and we talk about obviously Carrier a lot, or I do. I feel like he's going to be my guy. He's going to, he's taken up the helm because like there's no longer Brett Kulak or Jonathan Kovacevic. So Carrier is my guy. But if we're being perfectly honest, the catalyst to all these improvements has been Lane Hudson. We're seeing, and it's funny because usually for a rookie, it's all about adapting to the league. We're seeing the team adapt to Lane Hudson. And as they do that, as they improve their anticipation, the wins are coming. and his numbers are improving. Everyone's numbers are improving, but all that was already in place. And now with a few more important pieces here and there, with the snowball that was set in motion by Hudson's arrival has just, cascaded into this just beautiful avalanche of like excitement and hope, which is so weird for Habs fans. So I get why everyone's enjoying this. You deserve to. It's been a while since you could legitimately say, hey, this has been really, really good, and they deserve this win. But Hudson, in my opinion, has clearly been the celui qui enclenche, the cog in the wheel, the linchpin, the man, the dude, El Duderino, if you're not into the whole brevity thing. It has been Lane Hudson. And then you think he's 20 years old, so that's the other part that's pretty fun with this whole run. You're looking at guys who, obviously Nick Suzuki just casually winning game after game for the Habs, but young guys that could and probably will be here for many, many years playing the starring role. It was okay when the fourth line was pulling the offense towards respectability, and the third line has, the resurgence line, the Voltaren line, as we'll call them, because they're a little older. They've done great too, but you want to see those top line, the top line do the damage, and that's what's happening right now, and it's incredibly encouraging. Okay, so let's. I have to trust all of you for a lot, because I read a lot of these cold, and I got used to kind of figuring out who's going to troll me, but like I have to pay a little bit more attention here, because Bernardo almost got me with that last K1 there. Okay, so as Sean mentions, Slaf will be fine. Needs 300 games to reach his potential. Il est rendu à quoi, là? He's going to be at, he had like 40 in that first, or 53 in that first. And then last year, 70, because there was an injury and a suspension. So he's at like 1 plus 35 this year, 40? Basic math is hard. Okay, so he's probably, he's about approaching 130, 150? Is he? I could just look this up instead of asking blindly. But anyhow, he's got a ton of runway ahead of him. That's the thing with Juraj Slafkovsky. Okay, so he's at 159. Maudit, man. That was it was basic math that I failed to do on air, and I feel pretty ashamed for that. Either way, there are chances that next year he'll be the youngest guy in the lineup again. Not great chances, though, because if you've been watching, there's a certain man named Demidov that's doing some pretty great things in the KHL, despite a coach who was state appointed and a bit of an embarrassment to the entire sport of hockey. Demidov has just been amazing. That's the other part when you're thinking about this encouraging surge, is there's other pieces to come. There's Fowler to come. There's Hage to come. There's Demidov to come. There's three. Oh, I guess not, because Beck was a second rounder. But either way, you have Philippe Méchard and Owen Beck right now in the top 6 in Laval. That 150. It's good to see that the future is kind of taking over right now. I think that's really we're in that transition period, and it's shaky because it doesn't always stay this positive. But this is where you have a lot of false starts where at one point potential is great, but you got to see results. And to avoid being a Buffalo, you got to see games like this. So that's why I feel like that's why it's just been an encouraging surge from your Montreal Canadiens. Bernardo with a great stat here. Dobesh has allowed 1 5-on-5 goal in 3 games. So that would have been McKinnon? No, not McKinnon. It was who scored in the Avalanche game? I should know this. Either way, you're talking about teams that, it's been a while since the Capitals have won a cup, but obviously they're still, in that recent realm of cup winners. Florida, not bad. I hear they might have been the defending cup champions. Then obviously Colorado is a team that you want to emulate if you're the Habs. You want to avoid some of their long-term injury issues, but you want to emulate them in terms of focusing on talent. But also, you look at a guy like Rantanen and McKinnon, they're strong enough to fight their way through traffic. So it's another reason to want to emulate them. And Dobesh just looked great. To me, the most Dobeshian play of them all was Rantanen in the shootout. Okay, first of all, the Drouin save in the shootout against Colorado was beautiful because it showed a certain level of, I'm going to say it's arrogance. but it's beautiful arrogance. It's sports arrogance. We call that confidence. But no, let's be honest. It was kind of like when Kaiden Guhle hit, was it Lettermacki? Give that little look back. When Drouin brought that garbage in there, he let him know, get that garbage out of here when, chucking the puck. But it was actually the Rantanen save that I thought was spectacular by Dobesh, just in the sense that not only didn't bite, because this is game theory, right? So you want to make the other guy make the first move. That's how you gain an advantage in any one-on-one situation. He forced Rantanen to make that first move, and he was very patient. And the amount of anticipation that he had there, like Rantanen had to triple clutch, and he knew he was in nowheresville, by the time he took a shot. Dobesh, it was the opposite of desperation save, and that's why I loved it so much. It just shows level of poise and confidence / arrogance. But that's Jakub Dobesh for you. Like, I remember how pissed he was that I believe Ohio State didn't make it in they were one of the teams that didn't make it into the first his first year there. When it comes to rankings and they add guys to the tournament, to the Frozen Four. I believe Ohio State didn't make it in. He was livid. And like he didn't get the Mike Richter award either, but he wanted it. So anyways, in any other context, you'd be like, not great. That's what you want in sports. You want that guy that's arrogant, but it's actually confidence because you can back it up. And that's Jakub Dobesh. Marc, thoughts on leg kicks in the shootout? I don't know. Am I missing something? I think they're great. Nothing wrong with a nice little, leg shake here and there. Oh, it was the Lars Eller goal that was the 5-on-5. When we're talking about guys like Heineman, if he could become a Lars Eller with a little more, well, obviously that's a better shot and that speed, but like if he could develop into an impact player in the same sense that Eller is defensively with a little bit of offense, if Heineman could do that offensively with a little bit of defense, that would be a nice little sweet spot for him. I've always had a warm, I was gonna say a warm spot, a warm place in my heart for Lars Eller, because he used anticipation and people thought he was lazy. Get back to that lazy thing again, but it's just because he didn't have to chase the play. You look lazy if you can anticipate, but it's because you're using your noggin there. So, okay, so we're going to jump to, let's see here, we're in the second period, and I also have an ad read. Andrew was nice enough to send me a little message there, and he's like, hey, if you don't mind, do you want to maybe do the ad reads and add the overlays and do your job? So I will go out of my way to do my job today. And let me just pull this up for Inshu Bijou, which is actually, I was just checking out their website. They're one of our new partners on Game Over, and we're really pumped to tell you about them. It's like a glam jewelry store, essentially witchy, gothy type of thing. So they have, some silver pieces, some gold pieces, some bespoke pieces. They also have, and this is, I'm going to get the name perfectly right here. They have, sorry, my feed keeps cutting out because I'm actually looking at, I want to nail this. The Maleficarum Market. Okay, so what that is essentially vendors come in and people take a look at what they, what's available. It's handmade stuff, local stuff. It's pretty darn cool. And I was just checking out their website. Things go fast, and it's just interesting, local, which is, the way we should be moving with stuff. So they are located at the historical Château Saint-Ambroise. Inshubichou.com is the website that you want to check out. It's 4000 Rue Saint-Ambroise, Suite 27, and say hi to Astrid and the Wicked team, or head to Inshu Bijou. So that's INCHOOBIJOUX.com, and enhance your style. That next market, the market I was talking about, will come back February 8th and 9th. So go check them out. We are moving into tomorrow we have another Montreal Canadiens game, but now we're looking at the playoffs instead of the basement, and I'm glad, because I'll be honest, Tank Watch sucks. There's nothing more frustrating than, for fans particularly, when you're watching something come together, it's going to be difficult. But when even a little tiny thing goes right and people are like, oh, fuck, there goes the entire draft, that one goal. by that fourth line player ruined everything. Even though the draft, there's built-in odds. You can't ever say that, right? Like, you can't ever say, oh, that game here, if we would have won it, we would have gotten first overall. Nope. Schrodinger's lottery at this point, right? So now we actually get to enjoy those little things that we, those noted improvements, without dealing with the ire of those who wanted endless first overall picks. And there's value to wanting to tank. I get it. There absolutely is value. It's essentially one of the best ways to rebuild, or not just to rebuild, but to become relevant again. Now, I'll admit I'm not crying every time I see Chicago struggling, in terms of getting viewers. And good, you made your bed in that. That was ugly. That was ugly tanking, but it's a reality of sports, right? It's a built-in reality, and that's how you're going to get those highly talented players. But at one point, the stench of losing really takes over the locker room. And with all due respect to our friends over in Ohio that were upset with what Patrick Laine said, which was also what their GM said, losing sucks. Losing flat out sucks, and players eventually kind of get used to it. Kind of like our Tim Hortons drive-through friend, Ryan Riley, in Buffalo. He said playing there made him stop loving the game. Like, that's not just him trying to be mean. That's like oh buddy, like, come on here, I'll give you a big hug. That sucks. That really, it genuinely, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic, that sucks. So you want to avoid that. You want to avoid the eternal losing. And if the Habs can pull this off, I'm not saying they're going to get in the playoffs. Let me know what you think here, because I still, deep down inside, I'm not sure. This is sustainable to a certain extent, that the numbers are right, but there's still something about it that leaves me, I'm not ready to declare much. But it's a lot more fun this way. And I guarantee you guys like Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki and Martin St. Louis are loving their everyday lives, not just their time on the ice, because those are the type of competitors that they just, like Martin St. Louis. Have you noticed him smile this week? Since Christmas, Martin St. Louis has smiled more often than his entire coaching career combined times 75. So it's just you need to find balance. You always need nuance and things like this, and there's no perfect trajectory, but you don't want to stay in the basement for too long, because as we all know, taco smell takes a long time to vent from the basement. One of my favorite quotes from The Office. Bernardo mentions, I agree with this. Chicago getting, like, I don't want to talk about it too much, but getting Bedell, that was just, everything gross about sports. And it's just, it was over gross. And you know what? If you're going to get gross, get gross. Like, but man, that was gross. That was a gross way to live. Shout out to Vaguely from, this is Andrew, our mod, is saying, helping me start to understand natural stat trick. It's super, like, I understand it. So anyone here can understand natural stat trick, but it's been a while since I've done this. I could always do like a refresher, because I tend to forget. It's very, very simple. The terminology, a lot of it's not great, right? If we would have called Corsi shots from the get-go, we wouldn't have had so many old men getting upset at looking at different ways of evaluating shots, right? Like, we could have avoided a lot of the Corsi and the Fenwick wars, but they're super simple. There's like everything now, there's a slightly different variant on it just to make it a little clearer, like plus minus, goals for, goals against, it's you're just eliminating some of the variables, right? Like you're eliminating special teams play. That becomes a whole other section. You can focus on 5-on-5. So let's go. If ever you have any questions, hit me up. These are very, very simple. We call them advanced metrics. There's nothing advanced about them because I understand them. There's your guarantee right there. As Outright mentions, tanking is cool, but winning is fun. That's right. That's what it'll come down to every single time. I understood why people replied sarcastically to every goal from the Habs in the last 3 years, but it's like, man, you're kind of removing the one tiny fun part about 3 or 4 years of sadness, right? So it's like skipping the ski trips at school. It was a terrible comparison. Vaguely sort of tanking is such a drag for chasing silver linings. I'll tell you from a reporter standpoint. Yeah. Yeah, big time. I tried to, a little of it was my history with the Habs, but I tried to remain like positive in the sense that you don't have to keep reminding everyone that bad things are gonna happen, and like, yes, regardless, there's a lot of negative that's happening, but within it, there was always those signs, that like the signs of life in terms of positive improvements. We the really frustrating part was at the beginning of this year, it felt like all that fell apart. That's how quickly people, it's why people got frustrated at the beginning of this year. Is you thought, okay, tabarnak, like 2-3 years of improvements, potentiel dans la poubelle, but that trade by Kent Hughes to go get Alexandre Carrier. I just, man, what a that was great, Kent. That was some top quality trading right there. Bernardo mentions, can you imagine being a Sabres fan? Yeah, I do actually. You know what? Sabres fans are great. I enjoyed Buffalo. The last time, it wasn't the last time I was there. The first time I was there, I drove down to meet Scoot Matla in Rochester, Albany. One of the places with the garbage plates. Rochester, I believe. Syracuse? One of the great metropolis of upper state New York. Anyways, we went to the draft in Buffalo, and as we're walking, it's basically the cobblestone district, right? Around the Buffalo Sabres arena. And there's pubs right beside it, which were old factories, it's kind of around, you're guessing 100 years ago. There was probably a lot of wood running between Upper Canada and the United, well, okay, no, more than 100 years ago for saying Upper Canada. Either way, you could see the historic, value there. And I'm like, you know what? Buffalo is pretty sweet. And I opened the door and I stepped down. Okay, 10 in the morning, huge puddle of puke. Just like buffaloed me real good. So that was my first adventure in Buffalo. And you know what? Even though they greeted me with morning puke in the parking lot, I actually really do enjoy Buffalo. I'll tell you one day. We'll have to get Scott. I'll tell you one day about the man that woke us up at 5 in the morning, and that man, like, he did not go back to bed that night. I was pretty mean about that one, but overall, I do enjoy Buffalo. As Frederic says, Buffalo is pretty nice, but honestly, like, there's bad spots everywhere, and the last draft, or no, it wasn't the draft, it was the tournament, the rookie tournament. I have a jumping off balcony story where I ended up drinking with a dog at a bar. Great dog. Like, and it was a guy lent me the dog a girl had lent him a dog. Then we had to find the dog owner at like 5 in the morning. But I had a great time. The last time I was in Buffalo. Having to be a journalist when the team is dog poo has to be just bleh. No, there's the legend Pat. Why can't I think of his name? Because that legend Pat knows everything. Anyways, I'm gonna go look this up because it's gonna bother me. Why can't I think of Pat's name? I can picture him telling me all the stories at the Bell Center right now. Sorry, you just lost my face. Pat, fill me in. Come on, chat. I'm waiting for you to nail me on this. Pat. Anyways, he'd always tell me at first when I got in, he was saying, you want to cover a great team or a terrible team. What happens is if you permanently like Ottawa Senator your way to through a season, that's not ideal because eventually, fans get numb, right? So really, really bad or really, really good. And the Habs are kind of pivoting pretty darn quickly on that. So, Pat Hickey. Yes, Claire with the home run, Pat Hickey. So he's the one Pat Hickey tells you everything. He's like, if Deadpool is Marvel Jesus, as they made in the movie, then Pat Hickey is Salon Jacques Beauchamp Jesus. That's who he is, because he's just an absolute legend. Okay, real quick, before we jump into the third segment, I also have an ad read to get to. I was asked about the Brad Marchand comments. Okay, I've never seen, but essentially what happened is some guy from one of the Boston, Nesson maybe, I don't know enough to say. So anyways, some guy in Boston spoke a lot. Go figure, you should see some of my Irish family reunions. It's something. And he essentially said that Pasternak was first. I think he used the term locker room cancer, and I don't want to be like, I don't want to be called a big softy here. Call me 10 ply if you want. I fucking hate that term. I hate that term. But that's such a stupid term too to be using in this situation, because cancer, anyways, cancer is really, really, really destructive, destroys lives. A guy not being able to agree with another guy has absolutely nothing to, like, it's not a camping trip here. Who gives a shit? First of all, who cares if they're playing well? Like, Patrick Kane and Taves did not like each other. There are full-on clips with them on the bench giving it like, mange ma merde, tweet, and then I don't know, Patrick Kane probably told them how to not pay for cabs and et cetera, et cetera. Like, they were angry at each other, and then they went out and they won a Stanley Cup. So Brad Marchand went out on the and I don't know if it's true or not. It doesn't sound true to me, but Marchand denied the whole thing. He said, "Come on, like we're best friends. That's bullshit." And then he went on to say, "It's pretty crazy. This guy has a job." Okay, so now he's crossing into the realm of like, I'm gonna go after his livelihood, and that becomes a little more delicate, right? You in general, unless you're just a cowardly person, unless you're, if you're a type of person that can't look at someone else in the eyes, you don't really want to go ahead and do that. But now remember this: Brad Marchand is the kind of guy that gets that from every angle 1,000 times a year, right? Like I do not think he's being cowardly here, because he absolutely brought it up publicly for everyone to hear. And he said, how does this guy have a job? Like, how does this guy not lose his job? And to me, it just kind of spoke about the discrepancy in accepting some form of responsibility between the media and the players. At one point, the player will get frustrated with having to constantly justify his actions, even though there's no responsibility being taken on the other side, right? Like, someone else can say anything they want about you and you just kind of have to take it. That sucks. I'm not for that. So I like that he fired back. I don't know about the going after his job thing. That's like a little, but the fact that he just brought it publicly, he didn't like send a cowardly email to the PR team or anything, That's not, he didn't go the cowards route. He brought it up in front of everyone. And I thought that was pretty refreshing and entertaining. And I like Brad Marchand. I know everyone talks about, how terrible he is. Brad Marchand was the lifeline of this league for a while, in terms of, like, he shouldn't be considered a villain, but he is, just because he's not, he's not your classic hockey robot. The fact that he brings with him a pound of excitement, every single game, I love that. And I would go as far as saying the media at one point, it'd be pretty cool if we could set this up. I don't know if this is a terrible idea or not. So the players get to ask, like, for example, there's a lot that could rub it in my face, but like, Jakub Dobesh, for example, would be able to ask me like, "Hey, Mark, like, if I remember correctly, you wrote that it would be a pretty bad decision to call me up this year, like, so why are you so bad at your job?" Kind of flip it. I think that would be a fun experience for the media to kind of understand how it works, and the players understand asking questions, not that easy either. It's a lot easier to answer them. So I loved it. The livelihood thing, gets a little sketchy, but at the same time, eventually there's a reason Boston put that on there. Like, they were almost doing a live there. Boston wanted that out. They wanted that message out. So the whole franchise is behind them right now. That was a clear play to kind of push back. And you know what? I don't really like punching down, because that's technically what's happening here. That's the rule, but it's not punching down when you take 10,000 shots and you send one KO punch back. I think that's fair. Once in a while, having to, kind of confront whether you did poor work is legitimate, especially when your entire job surrounds you criticizing others for their efforts, right? All I'm saying is, if someone would come out and just point out, "Hey, like, you did a terrible job here writing this," and if I did, I don't know, I feel like that would create more of an open dialogue between the media and the players, and it would be a lot healthier at that point. So anyways, if we could have the reverse media day, which I'm sure would be a bad idea for some reason I'm not thinking about, all of you would watch. Why are they? Oh, you're all booing me for the Brad Marchand thing, eh? Yeah, listen, I like the guy. I think he's hilarious. I think we need 10 more Brad Marchands in the league. And yeah, of course he frustrated me. And yeah, that's what made it fun. Some of the best times the last little while was with Marchand and that the other dude when PK Subban and Dale Weiss on the Habs and they were in Boston in the playoffs. That was, you need the villains, you need the heels to make it a good show. And the NHL is just a bunch of baby faces. Let's be perfectly honest. Yeah, exactly. As Jean-François Paré mentions, Brad Marchand isn't boring. Et voilà. Et voilà. You know what I mean? If you're writing a movie, you'd put him in the movie. So I think, but I did reach my like compliment Marchand 40 times in a show limit. So yeah, I'll have to move on from there. As Outrage mentions, it's great seeing the East crumble while the Habs build their future model NHL team. That's the other side of all this. The Sens are stuck in internal senitude. The Bruins are just, that was another thing that Brad Marchand did tonight. You know what that was? That was the Mark Recchi, Dr. Recchi move too, right? I'm taking all this attention. Hey, listen, the Bruins have been pretty bad, and whipping it somewhere else. Like, that's a captain move right there. There's that. Remember when Recchi, it was a little different because he took it off Chara after he drove Chara, that night with Pacioretty. But that was another part of Marchand's. Okay, I've complimented him, but still, Brad Marchand did a great job tonight. Bernardo mentions with Marchand when he said he hated Plekanec the most. Thomas Plekanec was one of the most underrated shit disturbers in the league. Okay, the guy never got hit once, and that drove people crazy, that especially his opponents, that he never put himself in position to get hit. And people criticize him too, but it's like, nah, he retired healthy, man. Not many people retire healthy. But yeah, if you look at every Plekanec play, there's like a slight jab in the ribs, or there's just a slight hack, and he was so sneaky. Everybody underestimated Thomas Plekanec's sneakiness. Yeah, and that's another thing too. Okay, so we go beyond that. The Senators and Buffalo just being Buffalo forever. The Bruins imploding. The Rangers. Hey, this is the other thing. The Rangers had terrible 5-on-5 numbers last year, and they were pretty much all special teams and hot goalie. That was a feu de paille, which is, there must be a term and that I'm forgetting in English. Feu de paille. Straw fire? What do you call that? Something that burns quickly inside. There's an idiom for it, but I'm forgetting it right now. But that's what happened with the Rangers, and that's what you don't want to have happen here. And obviously, the other thing to avoid from Montreal is what Detroit did, which is, trying to push fast forward at the wrong time. Like, it would be a mistake, in my opinion, heading into the deadline for the Habs to load up. I'd keep selling. Like the Savals of the world. You don't want to start selling key guys, but if Saval or Josh Anderson gets a nibble, even if you're in a playoff spot, you still make that decision, right? Like, I don't think you want to stray from the overall path and make the mistake from Detroit is trying to add when it's not ready yet. Because the Habs will still need, even if they make the playoffs this year, they'll need a few years of taking it in the teeth in the playoffs, right? Flash in the pan. There you go. Jean-François Paré comes through. Flash in the pan. That's what I was thinking about instead of feu de paille. Okay, yeah. Dumpster fire is a little different. Dumpster fire is Buffalo, sorry. And flash in the pan would have been, the Rangers. Two completely separate here. And we're getting some votes. Matthew here is talking about the high-end rookie playing for Montreal right now, and it's not Lane Hudson. Emil Heineman on the fourth line. That's been encouraging too, and it's great because, again, Jake Evans is one of the only. He's the only guy that came out of 15 years of drafting and development. It's supposed to be normal to get Emil Heinemans and Jake Evans in your lineup, instead of having to go out and get Steve Ott and the other fantastic players the Habs have loaded up on trade deadlines. So yeah, it's very encouraging, and you know what he's doing, and I want to get Slafkovsky and go full Clockwork Orange. Well, not drinking milk out of that part's weird, but the eyeball part where, hey, look, Heineman took a shot. Heineman took a shot. Heineman, take a shot. Now you drink a shot. He took a shot. We just need Juraj Slafkovsky to constantly shoot. That's what we really want to see from him. And Emil Heinemann's been a fantastic story there. Okay, so before we move on, we have, I know, I'm really taking it to Buffalo. But the funny thing is, I brought them up to defend it. I've had great times in Buffalo, and they have a ton of craft beers right on the other side of the rink. It's been absolutely great. And I have a friend who works for the Carolina Hurricanes. So whenever we go there, we just go out a bunch of just delicious craft beers. Oh, Buffalo. The puddle of puke kind of put me off the first time. Like, welcome to Buffalo Splash. But it was much better from there on in. Okay, we're going to pivot and jump to our third segment. It's all about the chat. Let me know how what everyone's thinking. If you can go ahead and like and subscribe, that's great. But if not, just the fact that you're here, the fact that you're watching us, we genuinely appreciate it. It means a lot. We have shows in every Canadian market, so if you want to check those out too, please go ahead. Okay, so we have our next partner here. Oh no, I'm gonna try to do the ad read without blocking out my screen the whole time. How about that? Oh, come on, grand garçon. So not too far from Inchu Bijou, we have Le Saint Motel. This is another one of our partners that has joined Game Over Montreal. Okay, so if you're looking for a way to make, just nowadays, obviously, social media takes on a little more importance for everyone. I try, but I'm a little more in the whole. So how does it go, fellow kids department? But if you're looking to kind of up your game in that respect, you can check out Le Saint Motel in Montreal's Southwest. So it's in the same building as Inchu Bijou, and it's a selfie studio that's Montreal's historic Chateau Saint-Ambroise, and it has 12, I believe, over a dozen unique decors. So that gives you all the opportunities you want to take great pictures with your friends, and they have heart-shaped ball pits. There's even an Expo 67 setting, so they can go with you as well. So there's a mobile decor setups available to rent for events, wedding, prom, Sunday, just classy selfie session by the lake, which I've done a few times myself. They can help you there. So head to lesaintmotel.com for more details, or check out their amazing decors that were always being updated. And that is once again located at the historic Chateau Saint-Ambroise. And I didn't even black out my face once during that. I didn't lose the feed once there. How's that? Not bad, eh? Okay, so we're going to run... Oh, geez, what happened here? As I was... Sorry. I have to laugh at myself sometimes, so I'm going to have to... As I was just complimenting myself a lot, I I screwed up the entire feed. You won't be able to see this if you're... Ça c'était fort. And I was really I was like, good job, buddy. Good job. Ugh. Not live shows. You get what you get. All right, so we're jumping into the third segment here, and I'll try not to give myself too much credit for something I'm not doing. I've actually been getting a little bit of sleep lately, which is great because, I'm an insomniac. But I'm still making a lot of stupid mistakes, and that was one of them. All right, so and I am half Irish and half French Canadian, so all we do is hand motions. So we chop trees and we drink beer. That's literally, I'm allowed to stereotype. You're not allowed to stereotype. I'm allowed. And one of my really good friends who I'm hoping to go see in Korea pretty soon has Colombian and Italian heritage. So when we both get together, we try to meet in random cities. The hands are just going crazy. And that's, for those of you that are listening to this, not on YouTube, essentially what I did is I framed out my entire, when I was, telling how good I was about not blacking out the screen there, not losing the feed, it only caught basically my hands, and it looked like I was doing drunken hand signals. And yeah, I cannot, I can't actually do that. That was just a casual Marc Dumont incompetence. But one day I'll get my good buddy Mario Chinani, and we'll do just a live chat with an Irish, French Canadian, Italian, and Colombian hands going absolutely wild. I love all of you. That was fun. All right. So sign language is what I was looking for too. That's the other part vaguely. I can't even get through it. Sorry, I'm in a giggly mood right now. But the good news is I think everyone's in a happy mood because of what the Montreal Canadiens have been doing. To reset myself a little bit here, we're going into a stretch I think will actually be much more difficult for the Habs, though. Even though the December stretch wasn't great, we're going to see a heightened strength of schedule coming down here. So Patrick Laine and David Savard would probably, more Laine would probably help in that respect. But the Habs are going to have to keep it up. That's a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, it's like 4 guys, but I think that's enough now, right? On the internet, were unhappy when Kent Hughes undersold their performance at the midseason press conference. I love that. I absolutely love it. And it's not just from a managerial standpoint, under promise, over deliver. Just the fact that he wasn't ready to rest on his laurels, that to me was the opposite. Like, he acknowledged they were playing well, but it's like, man, it's le début du début. We're just getting going. And as opposed to the whole Bergevin, like, well, if we make the playoffs, that'll be neato, like neato gang. You know how it's neat because of the way it is. That's what Bergevin always said. But with Kent Hughes, it was more of a realistic, sober approach, but while also keeping some form of, the goal is obviously to make it. But you can't count your chickens, right? There's a whole song about when you got to learn when to fold them, and counting them is part of it there too. So he's just taking his accounting right now, and he's realizing his team is doing quite well. One of the things that he got dogged on to start the year is he said, we want to be in the mix. Well, that's exactly where he is. So he really could have done like me in the last segment and given himself a ton of props. But there was a potential that would have backfired. So I liked it. I liked his reaction, and I like Nick Suzuki's reaction as well. Like, they've proven nothing. Let's be perfectly honest. Yes, this is like getting a beautiful Guinness with the perfect amount of head on it poured in while you're in the desert. That's how delicious this has been for Habs fans, because it's been a couple of years, right? But keeping it realistic, keeping it everything in context and focus, that's his job. So I had no issue with the way Kent Hughes went after that whole thing there. So yeah, as Bernardo says, imagine if he would have came in like, holy shit, like, this is crazy. The one thing I think he landed on, and I've been trying not to be too simplistic about it, but he went on to say essentially like Carey is the main reason we've had this change. And then he quickly corrected himself and said, no, there are other reasons. He's right in both respects. There are other reasons, but absolutely, like, he knows it too. That Carrier deal, and from, I don't like to do this a lot. I don't like to feel like go online with sources say, but I've spoken to a few sources say, and teams are kicking themselves for not making the Carrier deal. Now, Nashville had been watching Justin Barron for a while now. So they were happy with that deal, but I know that right now Kent Hughes is getting the side eye from a few other general managers that realize, like, holy shit, we missed out on a reasonably priced right-handed defenseman, which is like just gold in this league, acquired for very little in terms of, like, Justin Barron. Okay, yeah, it was the Lehkonen trade. He was part of that, so that cost a lot. But at the point where the asset value was low, so they didn't pay a ton for what they got. A guy with a controlled contract for another 3 years, or 2-3 years. The cap's going up, and it was a stabilizing presence on a chaotic blue line. Like, there's this old adage. It's not an adage, but here's my little segment talking about the Navy and the ocean, like I usually do, at least once per show. If you pour oil out on the ocean, it will calm it. Believe it or not. Go look it up. There's essentially what it does is it creates like it creates like a layer of film, so it essentially cools down, brings on all the momentum. The physics behind it is absolutely crazy, but you can Google that. Back in the day, especially if there'd be a whale coming in, they would put oil out on the open waves, and it could be all sorts of oil. Doesn't really matter. Now that's what Alexandre Carrier is right here. He's in this ocean of just, listen, it's been fun to watch these young guys, but just chaotic as hell. And he just came in, calmly poured oil on the ocean, and now it's just looking like a mill pond, and it's just been brilliant to see, because I thought it would take him a little while, maybe even a year. So yeah, Alexandre Carrier, and écoute, c'est un petit gars de chez nous. That's fun too. For those that don't speak French, there's also a certain level of pride. And I was just saying, un petit gars de chez nous means he's a little guy from, he's a hard worker from our end of the woods. you know. And it's the same attitude we have when we see someone do well on the international stage with Canadians, but it's obviously there's particular pride for when it's for francophones, right? Me, not the Quebecer pride, not so much me, because I'm not from Quebec, but a francophone succeeding, I love it. And just seeing him do it for the Canadians, beautiful. I love seeing that as much as I love Mike Matheson seeing it. And all things equal, it matters for me to have that representation in the NHL. And if it could be here, even better. It's been a very long time since the Habs have had, you know, some guys from the isle or from the province at least that you could point to and being they're among the best in the NHL at their position, you know, and that's important. I think that's really important. So vaguely, yeah, okay. So we're saying we're going back to my my really long weird oil analogy about Alex Carrier, but that's what he is. It's because someone mentioned to me essentially he's been you know, just that they called it the icy cool for the Habs, which is, you know, you rub that on when you get a little bit of a rough patch there. But yeah, that's just for Martin St. Louis. He went from pure chaos, like Justin Barron at all times. I assume he goes on the battlefield like, guys, I pulled out the pin for my grenade. What do I do now? Oh my god, like, and every once in a while he chucks that grenade perfectly and boom. But you know, a lot of times there's some friendly fire. To Captain Cool over here, just the most interesting man in the world, Alexandre Carrier, just casually doing, you know, just great plays all the time, making life easier on St. Louis, making life easier on Dobesh, making life easier on Guhle, making life easier on Hudson and Matheson as well, because that pairing's been dominant since Carrier's come in, because they're kind of splitting the separation in terms of quality of competition to 1A, 1B right now. And that's fine, because you assume that Guhle and Carrier, just by the way they play, be better suited for defensive role. So all in all, just a brilliant move. I know I've said it 50 times this episode, but I'm going to say it 50 times tomorrow because it's been an absolute beautiful trade for Kent Hughes. And don't forget, these guys there's pride here, right? That was the first big deal, was going to get, wasn't that one of the first trades? Was it the first? No. The first trade was going to get a goalie because Montalvo was going to fall apart. And then it was to Foley and then Lekanen right before the deadline. Okay. But either way, they had been targeting Barron for a long time. They wanted that right-handed defenseman. And just the fact that they turned a bad deal into a great deal. Man. Just when I thought you couldn't make anything worse, you go ahead and do this and absolutely redeem yourself. All right. So we're going to... Vaguely's almost ready to go to bed now. I'm almost ready too. Vaguely's waiting for his 20 milligrams of chocolate. I during the Christmas holidays, I ate some baking, and there were 50 milligrams, a few of those. And it's always sketchy, right, with that stuff, because you don't know, like, anyways, there's the whole science behind it. Did nothing. It did absolutely nothing. I think I got ripped off by the government. That's the worst part. So yeah, the government didn't get me high enough during the winter holidays. I'm sure there's like a complaint department somewhere to do that. I don't mess with edibles very often. It's not my thing. You know, I've cut that. There's no drinking anymore. Edibles now with me it's a little risky. But yeah, okay. Well, I get that part though. As Vegas is saying, it's to go to bed early. That part was what I was looking forward to the most, and it just didn't work. I don't know why, but it just didn't work. Like I got to like 200 milligrams and nothing. So maybe it's time to hit the gym. Yeah, that's the other part too, as vaguely. And now I've completely changed the tone of the chat as we're about to leave here. You never know what's going to happen. So be safe out there. And before we go, I would like to remind everyone that you're doing a fantastic job just supporting us. We really genuinely appreciate it. You know what I'm about to say. Check out our sponsors, Inchu Bijou, and our friends over at Le Saint Motel. And if you want, share, like, subscribe. You know, all the information is in the comments, but just the fact that you're here, on apprécie ça. We genuinely do appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow after the Canadiens somehow put together another great effort, and there's travel involved. This is a trap game for the Habs, a little bit like Chicago, but I get the sense it's going to be a little different. We're getting that different vibe from Montreal when things go wrong. It's the sense is that it's not they're done. It's when are things going to go right, because they're bound to. And that's the sign of a team that is putting things together. There's going to be more lows. There's going to be more highs if they avoid the edibles. So, but for now, this is the good times within the rebuild, and I think everyone gets to enjoy that one. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow, and I'm forgetting something really important. Oh, yes, I remember now.